Welcome to another edition of Daily Brew, your morning pick-me-up. I'm Art Preuss, pastor of the Naples SDA Church. Thank you for joining us once again. Yesterday we talked about Joseph being a spoiled brat and how some of the choices that he made didn't reflect real well on him. But as we move forward into the story, we notice that not only was he a spoiled brat and his father spoiled him like there's no tomorrow. His brothers hated him. He was eventually sold as a slave to his own cousins, who then in turn sold him as a slave in Egypt, was falsely accused of rape by his master's wife, thrown into prison unjustly because of the accusations, then helps out the king's butler, Pharaoh's butler, and Pharaoh's butler holds the trump card in his hand to set him free. But he is forgotten for 2 years, and he is still sitting there in that jail cell. But one of the things that happened that got him into trouble was Joseph's big mouth, telling his brothers that one day they would bow to him. So now we fast forward to later into Joseph's life, where Joseph is now given the opportunity to interpret Pharaoh's dream, and he does it by God's grace. And as a result of interpreting Pharaoh's dream, Pharaoh sets him up as vizier of Egypt, second in command. There's a famine in the land 7 years later, and eventually his brothers, the Bible tells us, make their way to Egypt to buy food. And lo and behold, who are they bowing before? Joseph, their brother. But they can't recognize him because he's dressed as an Egyptian. The Bible tells us that they go back and forth to their homeland twice. And Joseph invites his family to come home to Egypt, the entire family to come and live with him after all is said and done. I mean, this story, and the way I've told it to you, doesn't even scratch the surface of all the drama that is unfolded in the Bible. But there's one thing that stands out, though. Yesterday we talked about making wise choices, correct? But here's where I want you to pinpoint and hone in on this story. In all of Joseph's dealing, his choices may not have been the best when he was younger. But even the choices that he was faced with when he was older as a slave, they never violated God's principles. So whenever he was dealt a raw deal, the choices he made, one, was never to leave or depart God's principles that were instilled in him as a child. See, it doesn't matter if it's nature or nurture in your DNA. It doesn't matter what outcomes have taken place. But when you make choices based on God's principles, the outcomes will compensate and will even surpass those of your genetics, of your upbringing, because you have been faithful to the choices in God's principles. I pray that you will make wise choices, but not just wise choices that will reflect prosperity, that will reflect behavior, but will reflect the principles of God that you have learned or are learning as you grow, and as you grow in your relationship with God. May God bless you, and I pray that you have a wonderful day.